there is a expression of you that perceives of reality from a more expanded perspective. This expression of you is able to observe and witness beyond what you may currently be conscious of. When you came into this physical incarnation as this human being, you sort of narrowed in this scope of awareness. Now, this expanded version of you, this expression of your totality, is always perceiving of all that you're experiencing through you and so much more. Your higher self is you and is also guiding you on the path of this human experience that you're having. This physical experience of contrast and duality serves a profound purpose. You know what? Before we go any further, I just want to say that it's of my intention to engage with and interact with those of you that are here live. In case you missed it at the beginning, I made mention that this is very much a collective experience. It's such a beautiful thing that we're able to in real time connect with each other and co-create. And so I personally want to set this intention for us to make it just that, a co-creation, because I'm just as much here to learn as you are, believe it or not. And I truly believe we can make for a more powerful experience when we come together and add our energy and contribution to the experience. So I'm going to start with this. If you're with me live, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, I'm streaming on both and I can see your comments wherever you are. I love to do this. Drop me an emoji of the flag to your country, or just type it out. I'd love to see the emoji though. I want to just feel who's present with me here and who's co-creating. I see Raphael, a dear brother and activated member of the Ascend Academy. I want to give him a big shout out. My buddy Ari, tuning in from Argentina. If I see more flags, this is where I get to test, or you guys get to see how well I know my flags. Who else is with us? I see a few more of you live. Ra sending his love from Barcelona, Spain. I know the Spain flag. Uh, yeah, again, and we see my beautiful, beautiful love, Amanda, tuning in from Canada. So again, guys, I just want to say I'm gonna be sharing a lot, but I'm here to hear from you as well. I'm just as excited about what can potentially be received and transmitted through each of you as we embark on this journey and this conversation. Um, so if at any point there's insights or questions that want to come through, please share it with me in the chat. I'd love to see that. Um, our lives here, our physical experience, they serve a profound purpose, and it's through our physical experience of contrast and duality that we give rise to new desires and preferences. And this inherently invokes our expansion. As we continue to live out these physical lives, we're constantly building on this ideal vision of ourselves, our highest vision. And as we invoke this newfound clarity, we too are invoking our expansion. Now, our higher self immediately embodies this vision, this ideal for what we've conceived of our most evolved self. In this physical experience, however, there's a sort of delay. Energy being more dense here causes for the ideas that we have to take some time to manifest, right? We don't just have an idea and immediately see it come into form. We experience this gradual unfolding of our desires. Um, but being that our higher self has immediately and always embodied the fullness of who we are, aligning with this, aligning with the guidance of our higher self, is the means by which we walk the path of our highest timeline. Our highest timeline is the path in which we are fulfilling our desires and manifesting our purpose with the greatest amount of fulfillment and ease. Who here has experienced this sense of just natural unfolding, and the way that being in alignment with our inner wisdom and that higher guidance, the way that that catalyzes the manifestation of so much. Well, Marianne, I'd love to know if you've ever experienced this sense of just flow and the way that alignment is able to activate so much more. And again, just to be clear, this is what I'm referring to is being aligned with the guidance that we're receiving from our higher self or from our inner wisdom, which is one of the same thing. Rob makes mention of, if I'm getting this correctly, is the higher or future self, our future self. Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear that term future self, because I feel like it can in some ways be distorted. It can distort our view of what's really taking place. Now, being that our higher self is operating beyond time and space, to say that this is an embodiment of our future self, who we are becoming, I would say is accurate. And so we may choose to use these terms interchangeably, future self and higher self. Now, of course, we can have many versions of our future self that may not necessarily be our higher self, but if I'm interpreting the question correctly, I do believe that we can use these words synonymously, interchangeably. So yeah, again, I just checking in with, have we ever experienced that sense of the way that alignment catalyzes our desires, or just when we're living in alignment with and true to that wisdom, and we find ourselves just walking our path with a sense of purpose. This, my friends, is the benefit to heeding the guidance of our higher self. Now, it's also important to know that this may at sometimes be beyond logic, right? Um, Operating through logic and just concepts alone can be a severely limiting thing. Um, have you ever had an experience in which you just had a feeling, this feeling that you should do something or go somewhere despite not having any reason to do so? Despite having any real logical reason to do so. Let me know. Have you ever had that feeling that I need to do this, I need to go here? And have you ever had this feeling and only after the fact of following it did you find out why that was the perfect thing for you to do? What about the other way around? What about one of those times that maybe you felt this sense of, hey, I should do this, and you ended up maybe ignoring it, only to later find out that things didn't pan out so well. In both of these contexts, this was your intuition speaking to you. And it's through your intuition that your higher self communicates through you. One of the ways that your higher self communicates through you. And so I just wanted to point this out so that you can draw from your own personal experience the evidence for why tuning into, listening to the guidance of your higher self is something you ultimately want to do. Because I'll say again, it's in aligning with your higher self that you align with your highest timeline. The path on which you will manifest your soul desires, live out your highest purpose, and live your best life. If you're feeling the resonance with these words, I see a few of you have experienced those intuitive hunches and perhaps like leading two different ways when we've listened and when we haven't listened. That's it for my groundwork, my foundation for why we're having this conversation in the first place, why we're talking about how to connect with your higher self. And so if you're with me at this point and you're feeling in resonance with these words, stick with me, because now we're going to explore how we do it, how we connect to our self, how we open up to and receive that guidance so that we can align with it, and with this, our highest timeline. So how? In a world where we are bombarded with so much external stimuli, it can be difficult to tune in to ourselves. But this is where we need to go, because it's within that we attune to and we find the guidance of our higher self. One of the ways that we can create the space to do so is through a practice of meditation, so that we can first find inner stillness. I should mention that we have a nice step-by-step process coming at you for this practice of connecting to your higher self. The first step being finding stillness. And this is where the practice of meditation comes in, because through meditation, we are able to, for a moment, take some time away from all of the external stimuli of the outer world and begin to tune in. Except, if you're like most, when you begin to do so, you'll find that you come up against something else. All of the internal noise. Because most people today are still operating in a state of ceaseless overthinking, unconscious thinking that is distracting them from the small, still voice. The small, still voice is the voice of your conscious, the voice of reason, the voice of knowing, the voice of your higher self. So we start with becoming the observer of all that's playing out in our inner world. By sitting back and being the observer of those thoughts, those feelings, and detaching from them, meaning witnessing them without identifying with or taking them on as being true. When we do this, something powerful starts to happen. All of these noisy thoughts, when we sit back and we pay awareness to them, and we just observe from that detached state, begins to quiet down. And there's a reason for this. These thoughts are coming from parts of ourselves that are just looking to be seen and integrated. And just like a child that is trying to get its parents' attention, mom, 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 look at me, mom. When mom doesn't answer, what happens? That child is either going to, well, keep trying, or they are going to repress this feeling, this desire, and that's going to show up in other ways of trying to receive that attention. Same thing holds for these parts of yourself that are going unnoticed. If you ignore them for far too long, they will show up through other means, like in the body. This is how physical symptoms start to show. They're repressed thoughts and feelings, energies that aren't fully processed and released. Or integrated, rather. Let's go with integrated. Because when you take that moment, quick wave to those of you that are with me live. Again, I just gonna keep calling it out if any insights are coming through, if you can relate or you disagree with any of it, I want to hear it. When we take that moment to observe, it allows the space for these aspects of ourselves, all of this internal noise that may have been happening behind the scenes. It allows the space for this to come up, to be seen, to be observed, to be understood. And when you bring awareness to these aspects of yourself that have been asking for it, probably for some time, they no longer need to keep poking beneath the surface. And with this, you'll start to find that that mental chatter from this, again, place of observing, attentive, patient awareness, that mental chatter will start to simmer. Allowing for, we're going to show it to you again. Whoops. Inner stillness. After which, if we're able to find this sense of inner stillness, we then lead into and we become ready for step 2, setting an intention. Only when you've managed to find that state of presence and groundedness are you ready to do what comes next. Set this intention. From this place of presence, you may then choose to set an intention for receiving guidance around a specific area of your life or around a question that you may have. This is where you will define that. If there's something in particular you want to receive higher guidance from, in your intention, you want to make that clear. Here's where you may choose to affirm to yourself something of the sort of, I set the intention to connect to and receive the guidance of my higher self to find clarity around. I set the intention to connect to and receive the guidance of my higher self to receive clarity around. After which, you let go of the efforting, the trying, the searching for something to happen, and you instead begin to listen, which happens to be step 3. Here's the thing. The guidance of your higher self is always coming through. In fact, even in step 1 and 2, that process was being guided by your higher self. But often we need to first sit in that place of mindful awareness before we can really tune into what the guidance is. Because if too much is going on at once, we're not going to be able to discern what is of our highest guidance and what is of the mental chatter that keeps us distracted from that. Now, after you've found that stillness and you've set this intention to connect in, this is where you open up to observing that guidance coming through. Because again, your higher self's guidance is always coming through. The variable here is how aware you are of it. How aware you are of recognizing this guidance for what it is. Which can come in so many different forms. It might be in images, it might be a voice, and it might just be a feeling that you feel. The important thing here is that you don't question it. You don't get caught up with wondering and thinking if you're doing this right or if it's really happening, because that will just bring you back into your thinking mind, which will cause for a lack of trust and distraction from what's coming through. So, what do we do instead? Well, trust. Trust. You've already laid your groundwork and you've set your intention. As you observe, as you listen, you trust what it is you're receiving. And if you do, if you've opened yourself up to receive, you've connected in, and you've begun to trust what it is you're receiving, that's when the downloads start pouring in. Your life changes forever. Your perspectives shift. You have groundbreaking epiphanies and revelations, and nothing ever is the same again. Sometimes. Sometimes. Because that can certainly happen. But you probably shouldn't go expecting it to be so, because it's often our wanting it to go a certain way, expecting for it to look a certain way, that keeps us blocked from fully receiving what it is that we are. It's like having a friend give you a gift, and instead of opening it, you're busy on Amazon looking up all the things that you'll someday buy. The gift has been given, my friends, and it's time that you open up and receive. Don't get distracted from what you think it's supposed to look like by what you think it's supposed to look like. Cause for you to not attentively receive what it is that's right here, because what's here and what you're receiving is for a reason. It always is. It's because this is the best thing for you, or you wouldn't be receiving it. And so when you observe and you listen, and can you do so from a place of curiosity and explore why it is that this is what your higher self is showing you. Why is this the perfect thing for me to receive in this here and now? Now, this is not yet time to get into analyzing, because again, that'll bring you back up into the thinking mind, which perhaps will come next. But for now, we continue to observe and listen from that place of non-judgment, trusting that it's the perfect thing for you to receive. When you do so in a sense of trust and knowing. You don't go wrestling with and fighting for the answer yourself, because being in a state of searching and trying to figure it out isn't being in a state of knowing and having your answers provided to you. Have you ever, love to hear from you, have you ever had the experience of trying to figure something out, wrestling with a problem, and only when it was when you took a break and put it down that suddenly your answer was received? Let me know. Have you ever had this type of experience where you just couldn't figure it out, and no matter how hard you tried to think about it, nothing was happening for you? But when you took a break, you did something different, you played, you had some fun, you spent some time with friends, lo and behold, the answer was received. Let me know. This happens for a reason. It's because it's when the thinking mind turns off that we become more receptive to our intuitive faculties and the guidance of our higher self. And I find it so interesting that some of the great minds in our history used to deliberately set up parameters for themselves, situations for them to have this type of experience. Einstein is said to have had or come to some of his many great discoveries while being in a bathtub. Charles Darwin used to go on long walks, and it was on one of his walks that he first had the idea for natural selection. And Thomas Edison, this is my favorite one, he used to take a nap while holding a ball, so that as he began to drift off into sleep, he would drop that ball. The sound of it would wake him up, because it was in that zone between waking and drifting into sleep, thinking mind turning off, that some of his creative solutions would come through. And so, really, to drive this point home here, it's about getting out of that that thinking mind and into a state of receptivity for that higher guidance to come through. I see some comments here that I want to call out, if I can. Yeah, I should be able to. There we are. Raphael says it's kind of getting cut off for me, but I think he mentions Einstein taking LSD. That may play into coming into these more intuitive states as well. And Amanda has had one of those types of experience where taking that break got her ready to receive the answer, which eventually revealed itself. I'm not the only one, nor is Thomas Edison. At this point, you've found inner stillness, you've set your intention, you've opened up to receive, and you've begun to observe and listen to the inner guidance, the higher guidance. It's likely that if you've done this with, again, patience and awareness, that at this point you would have likely had some insights and clarity come through. At which point, we're not done just yet. There's another step. It's time to integrate. Step 4. This guidance is coming through to be embodied, to be practiced, not just so that we connect to it, but so that we can apply it to bettering ourselves and our lives. And now I want to share with you a practice that I have found tremendous value in my process of integration, and that's journaling. Journaling has this way of taking our ideas, our messages, and grounding them into reality. That act alone of writing pen to paper, being embodied in that experience of writing down what came through for us, or what's coming through in that experience, is the first act towards manifestation. Actually, it's a grounding of that idea, from idea to physical expression. And so journaling can be this powerful practice for integration. Notice I said pen and paper. I mean it. Pen and paper, not a laptop, not a phone, and not a old school typewriter. It's not that these tools can't be effective. If that's what you have available to you, it will still support this process. But I have found, and I know I'm not the only one because I've had this conversation with so many others at this point, that there's something about writing with pen and paper that allows for us to more deeply connect to our higher self. I have a few theories as to why this is. One being that writing causes us to slow down, right? We can all think faster than when we write, and most of us, probably all of us here, can type faster than we write. And so that slower pace requires us to, well, slow down. And similar to meditation, this practice of slowing down allows us to tune in, connect in more strongly. I'm also been pondering, and wouldn't be surprised that writing would have a effect or cause for us to shift into a brainwave state that is more conducive to our connecting to our intuitive faculties than in comparison staring at a screen and typing. Whatever the reason may be, the point here is that you'll connect more deeply, more strongly. You'll form a stronger connection if you go pen to paper. And yeah, if you got it, that's that. If you have a pen and paper available to you, that's the means by which this practice of journaling and integration should take place. Now, as you go into this, as you begin to journal, don't overthink it. Just let what's coming through flow onto the paper. Let go of any needing it to be perfect or trying to perform, because, hey, this is just for you. This is not about sharing it with someone else. You may want to take these ideas, later expand on them, and share it with others. Awesome. But in this practice of integration, this should be all about you, because that pressure that you may end up placing on yourself to craft something will actually only serve to distract you, and again, get you back into that thinking mind. So just let it flow here. Whatever wants to come through, write it, even if it wasn't the messages that came through in the meditation. My experience with firsthand getting to find benefit in and experience how powerful it can be to just let it flow when we journal was when I first took up a practice called morning pages, which some of you may have heard of. I've spoken about this a few times in the past for good reason. Morning pages is a practice of 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing in the morning, meaning not thinking about it, whatever's playing out in your mind, whatever shows up, you're without hesitation getting it down on paper. And if you try this, what you might notice is that at first, or in some parts of this practice, some of what's coming through may just kind of feel insignificant and not important. But beneath that, that's where the gold is. And I can attest to this, and so can thousands of others that have tried this practice too. Um, I have found a great deal of clarity and insight in completing morning pages. Um, yeah, it's as simple as that. Just so much clarity. And I actually want to share with you a quote that comes from Julia Cameron, who is the being that popularized morning pages in her book called The Artist's Way. And in that, she writes, pages are a form of meditation. They quiet mental chatter. They point us toward gratitude and away from grumpiness. And most important, in terms of creativity, they frequently connect us to what I call the great creator, the source of all inspiration and guidance. Feeling a bit relevant? That's because it is. Give morning pages a shot, family, if you haven't yet already. Again, stream of consciousness writing, and this is where I say that, I've shared with you this step-by-step process in the order that I have so far, because, well, this is the way that I've been really enjoying it and putting it to use first, meditating and then grounding in and integrating through journaling. But know that journaling and morning pages on its own is such a powerful practice for connecting to your higher self. It doesn't necessarily need to come after meditation. And like anything, my encouragement to you is to be willing to experiment and play around with different practices, and even just changing up the order, maybe journaling before meditation. And after a bit of experimentation, um, again, as with everything, learn to tune into and trust the guidance of your higher self to determine what is right for you. If you were with me in the chat, let me know, family, if, oh, wow, there's a bunch of messages that came through that didn't have I hadn't scrolled down for it, so I'm gonna call some of you out here. Amanda has some experience with morning pages. Sounds amazing. She says that it supports us in releasing and finding things that she had no idea was taking up space, bringing to light some of what's going on and playing out in this under the surface. And then I see my boy Hari, who, like Einstein, gets real creative in the bathtub. He writes some of his best poems in the bath. I see Stephanie also message. It's still doing that thing where it's kind of cutting me off. So I think I'll see her message in a second. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, I still can't see it. Okay. Stephanie, I'll get to your message as soon as it gets bumped up by somebody else, if someone wants to do that favor. So there it is, family. I've shared with you a 4-step process for connecting to the guidance of your higher self. But now is where I throw you a curveball. Because you don't need any of these things. You don't need to meditate, and you don't need to journal in order to connect with the guidance of your higher self. In fact, I don't even think this should be the goal in itself. I see it more as a stepping stone. Because while all of these practices can certainly be supportive of coming into alignment, first tuning into and then coming into alignment with this guidance, I don't think it's just to connect to our higher self that we're here. I believe that we're here to be our higher self. I started this with saying that you are your higher self, because, well, I quite literally meant it. You are a multi-dimensional being. And what this means is that you are both a human being having this physical human experience, and you are your higher self. And one of the ways that I've come to think of this journey that thank you for the bumps, everyone. Um, one of the ways that I've come to think of this journey of our ascension process is that we're not just here to listen into and go to the guidance of our higher selves. We're also here to, notice I said also, we're here to integrate our higher self perspective. The more that you consciously connect into this guidance and align yourself with it, the more this sort of momentum begins to build, to the point at which you're no longer needing to take that pause to connect in. Rather, you're living in alignment with this guidance moment to moment. The gap between thinking about it and acting begins to diminish. And it becomes this experience of moment to moment flowing in alignment with your highest wisdom, with a sense of knowing, with a sense of flow and ease. And when we do this, we find that we come alive in this expression of our highest purpose, our greatest gifts, and as our higher self. I'm gonna check in with the comments one more time here. Um, I think the comment that I didn't see from Stephanie was just a heart. I'm receiving your love if you're still with me. With love, thank you. And she also says that she's gonna try morning pages. I'm super pumped up for you. I've put more than one person onto this, and the stories that I hear from those that I've provided this invitation for has led to some amazing experiences, and just getting to hear afterward how powerful of a process it was for them has been extremely fulfilling for me. So I'm really excited to hear, Stephanie, if you do give it a shot, or if any of you give it a shot, if you give any of this practice and process a shot, please let me know. Reach out to me and share with me how it goes for you. Yeah, please, I'd love to hear how integrating this plays out for you, any piece of it. And then Amanda says, oh, I lost it again. She says, please giving, yeah, I need someone to bump again. Yeah, I can't see the full comment from her there just yet. No. Does anyone else have some energy to add to the mix? How connected do you feel to your higher self? How in tune with the guidance? How do you go about connecting with your higher self? Because that's the other thing I should add. This process will be unique to you. The way you experience this connection is going to be unique to you. Amanda says that she's giving morning pages. I think please don't actually fully understand. But she does say that I've only found benefit and magic in my pages. And Stephanie also says that she'll let us know how the process goes. Super super pumped up about that. Yeah, like I said, it's our connection and sense of alignment with our higher selves is going to be experienced so uniquely. And it doesn't need to just be about receiving guidance or insight. We can feel connected to our higher self when we are creating art, when we're dancing, when we're playing a sport, and all of these are expressions of our higher self. And the more that we act in alignment with this and we allow ourselves to fully express this essence, the more natural this becomes, to the point at which, again, we're not just following the guidance of our higher self, but we're being it too. Got it. I'm gonna give one last space for one last go at it, family. For those of you that are with me, with us, this collective experience. I had a lot of fun engaging with you in the chat. I'm remembering now how much I miss doing live streams and being there with you. So you're hearing from me personally that there's going to be more. I promise there's going to be more. Ross says that he finds his higher self by going into his heart space, where he has a party with his higher self, middle self, lower self, and having fun with the union and communion with, well, all of themselves. Amanda seems to have had that experience of dancing and feeling a stronger connection with her higher self through dancing. Doesn't need to just be through meditation or journaling. There's so much more. There's so much more to you, and there's so many other ways to connect. And with that being said, I hope that providing you with this one way to connect ends up being of benefit to you. So I'll say it again, family. If any of you decide to give any of these tools and practices a shot, please, please, please let me know, because your higher self is here and always guiding you along the path of your highest timeline. This expression of you that is full, this expression of you that loves you and wants for you what you want for you. This expression of you that's always right here by you. So, with that being said, from my higher self. Oh, one more thing. How could I forget? Hit it. Hit them with it. My friends, this is just scratching the surface of the collective energy that, well, I get to experience, because I am super super grateful and honored to be the one to have brought together to first plant the seed of what has become the Ascenders community in the Ascend Academy, which some of you who were with me live are a part of. Maybe I can get some of you to speak to it, because, well, you have a more accurate experience or reflection of what it's like being a member of the community than I do. That others may be able to someday relate to. So if you're with us in the Academy, I would love to hear some of my activated members that are with us in the chat. Most of you are on YouTube, I think. Let the family know what it's like being a member. My experience of it is that, wow, we just get activated every single time. Each and every session and meeting with the activated members is a activation of its own, and we come out of it having evolved, having been uplifted by each other, because there's something that happens in this group setting where we come together to learn from each other and connect that I don't think you can find alone. I don't think we're here to grow and evolve alone, and that's why we've been creating what we've been creating in the academy, where like-hearted, like-minded souls who have heard the call to ascend together can join us and benefit from the power and being a part of a community of beings that are really just there for the same reason, to connect, to shine their light, to grow alongside and with the support of each other. So that's my experience of it. A few of the activated members are chiming in here. Um, Amanda says the level of connection and growth that happens personally and feeling into the evolution of the collective together is so extremely powerful. I feel it too, and she would love to see more of you there. And she also mentions it's been a magical part of being, been magical being a part of the community. Magic is what we're here to create, and it's been entirely that. So I'm putting this invitation out at a great time because, well, tomorrow we have another activated member session. We meet on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is 3 hours before whatever time it is for you right now. So it would be so epic to have some of you that are tuned in here to join us in the tribe and perhaps even activate your membership, because that's what gives you access to our live member sessions as well as our entire masterclass library, which has over 60 and maybe even more hours worth of content in it. But it's really the sessions I feel like makes this thing so powerful. And now some of you are bumping without even needing to ask, which I love you. Lastly, you can also join the community for free, because we a few months ago opened things up by introducing a basic membership that allows you access to our virtual platform where you can meet and connect with other ascenders on the journey. So there's really no reason not to join us unless you're not hearing the call. But if you are, well, here's an opportunity to answer. Family, I fucking love you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to, and hoping to see some of you beautiful souls, more of you beautiful souls in the Ascend Academy. With that being said, kind of don't want to go. I'm gonna go, but I'll be back. So until then, keep ascending.